your brains are physically like entirely different than a child's. And it's like you do have to almost like match their energy. What you do instruct to them, you have to do it in a way that they'll understand. Parenting is more than just structure. It is about like being the best person that you can be and bringing full education to yourself as a parent for you to have a successful child. You can have all the privileges in the world and you could crumble at your knees if you do not have an appropriate foundation. I had struggled with my identity as an Ethiopian. I experienced racism. Your hair, minamin, like, oh, it looks like a lion. It's funny, right? That is something that we really, really need to deconstruct because it is harming this generation and pushing us away from actually seeking help. A lot of parents are kind of forcing spirituality, and that is not how we handle spirituality in that manner. And that actually turns away our children from seeking God by their own footsteps. God's presence, when he wants you, it is loud, it is abruptive. I had been shaken to my core. Everything had been taken away from me. I found comfort in sin. There is comfort in righteousness. So it is creation, us, versus creator, him. This short-term happiness is not something that will gratify our flesh nor the spirit.
Habisha kid in you, us. What does the experience look like?
An experience.
በውጭ ሀገር ኖራችሁ ልጆችን ማሳደግ በጣም የከበዳችሁ ወላጆች ካላችሁ ይህ ፖድካስት ለእናንተ ነው። ልጆቻችሁ በኦቲዝም የተጠቁ ከሆኑም የሚገርም መፍትሄን ይዟል። የዛሬ እንግዳችን በአሜሪካን ሀገር ተወልዳ ያደገች ድንቅ ኢትዮጵያዊ ነች። አእምሮ የሚሰራበትን መንገድ ተረድታ ልጆችና አስተዳደግ ላይ አተኩራ እየሰራች ትገኛለች። አሁን እጅግ በጣም ገራሚ ወደነችው ወደ ሩት ንጋቱ ፖድካስት እንኳን ደህና መጣሽ።
ደህና ነኝ።
እንዴት ነሽ?
ሁሉ ሰው ነው። Very fluent.
ስላገኘሽ በጣም ነው ደስ ያለኝ። አርባ ምንጭ ነው የተገናኘነው አይደለ?
አዎ።
አማርኛ ላይ እንዴት ነሽ?
ትንሽ
በደንብ ማውራት አትችይም?
I listen better than I speak.
ምን ማለት ትችያለሽ ለኦዲየንሶቻችን?
ሰላም፣ እንዴት ነሽ? ሰላም ሁኑ።
እስቲ ስለ ራስሽ በአማርኛ ተናገሪ ብልሽ ምን እንደምትይው?
በእንግሊዝኛ
አስተዋውቂ ራስሽን በአማርኛ ነው።
I don't know if I can do that. I need to learn. ስሜ ሩት ነኝ።
እሺ ልክ ነው። ስሜ ሩት ነኝ። ስራሽ ምንድነው?
Behavioral therapy.
Behavioral therapy. What is that? Behavioral therapy again?
Behavioral therapy focuses on neurodivergent children. So that is a very big umbrella of different diagnoses. So that can turn to ADHD, a lot of mental disorders. It can turn to learning better habits in very simple layman's terms. It is learning better habits and unlearning negative habits that could impact the child's, success in life. So that can, it focuses on independence. Sometimes it can go into even eating. Sometimes children have avoidance in certain foods, proteins, even vegetables, to be fair. It can turn to a lot of coping strategies as well, of how a child can successfully function on their own independently, how they can establish their own coping strategies, how they can socially interact appropriately with family members and anyone outside of the home as well.
Autistic childs also included on this category? Like?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So you said it in a good way that it is like building a good habit, removing the bad one.
Absolutely.
So exactly. What is habit?
I would say in this specific field, sometimes it is certain behaviors that within the child's mind, it is seen as habitual, something that they can automatically do without really thinking. Other times it is something that feels so enforced that without doing this certain habit or trait or pattern, the functionality of everything in front of them falls apart. And that is where the tantrums kind of come in as well, because something doesn't follow through, something doesn't make sense, or something had been 2 inches away from the expectation that they initially had. That's where a lot of what you see is, unfortunately, how society sees it, as autistic children do not know how to manage themselves. They do not know how to handle themselves in public and the outbursts and the tantrums and things like that. In reality, it's like, our brains function differently than their brains, and they are seeing the world in an entirely different lens. And truly speaking, it ends up being a big deal for them. But the whole point of behavioral therapy is to acclimate them into being more comfortable with uncomfortable choices or uncomfortable situations, so they can truly acclimate and be, mind you, children are little adults. They are going to be embedded into society. So even if your child is neurodivergent or not neurodivergent, you want to treat them as little adults. They are meant to be acclimated into society as adults. So we want to treat them and support them and bring awareness to them as much as we can.
እንዲያውም እኔ ከቻልኩኝ እኔ እንደዚህ እንደተሳተፍኩ ሁሉ አባቴ መጥቶ ከዚህ ቢሳተፍ የምር በጣም ነው ደስተኛ የምሆነው። ቢመጣልኝ ደስ ይለኛል። ደግሞ የሆነ ቀን እንደማደርገው አልጠራጠርም። በምንሰራው ስራ ደስተኛ ላንሆን እንችላለን፣ በፋሚሊ ደስተኛ ላንሆን እንችላለን። ግን በቃ ራሳችን መፈተሽ ያስፈልጋል። የሰው ልጅ የቱ ጋር እንዳለና ወዴት መሄድ እንዳለበት፣ መንፈሳዊ ህይወቱና ስጋዊ እንዴት አድርጎ አብሮ መሄድ እንዳለበት በጣም ብዙ ነገሮችን ተምሬያለሁ። ታድሰን ነው የምንሄድ።
የማንያዘዋል እሸቱ 17ኛው ሪትሪት ከጥር 23 እስከ 26 በአርባ ምንጭ ከተማ ይካሄዳል። በ0987 2920 ደውሉና አሁኑን ተመዝገቡ። How do you do that?
I would say it's not for the faint of heart, to be fair. I am very, very fortunate that God had destined me to work with children. I do believe that. I do speak about this to many people, and unfortunately, it's not their cup of tea. I would say that it does require a lot of patience. You cannot take anything personally, to be fair. I've had some very unfortunate situations where it's like almost like I would be physically in danger due to the child's like reactions, to be fair, or whether it can be disappointing even, or some out of the expectations. Like, you want your client to improve, you want them to be able to find success, but it's, again, you cannot attach any kind of emotional baggage to that, because you just want them to succeed, and that's all there is to it.
Where did you get this idea? Because most of the times we make things personal. Who taught you this?
To be fair, children's frontal lobes have not developed at this point. They don't really think the way that adults do in many different ways. One of them is kind of like the logic and reasoning, the cause and effect of like why their intentions of making choices, to be fair. So something that does, I feel like, soothe a lot of parents is like, your brains are physically like entirely different than a child's. And it's like, you do have to almost like match their energy of being able, like, what you do instruct to them, you have to do it in a way that they'll understand. For example, with toddlers or the terrible twos, for example, if you're like, don't do this or don't run, whatever, how they process language is entirely different. And they're not going to understand the don't part of that sentence, but they are going to understand the run. Don't run. What they end up doing is running. So you do have to rephrase your language, even as parents, saying like, why don't we walk instead? Would you rather skip or would you rather hop instead? So now you can obviously protect or maintain the safety of your child while they do practice obedience and following instruction and things like that. So a lot of it, parenting is more than just, structure. It is about like being the best person that you can be and bringing full education to yourself as a parent for you to have a successful child.
So as a child, do you think you got this, privilege, like to have the right parent, mom and dad, paving you the way, understanding you, being your models? Because as a child, most of us, we lack this experience, child especially. I suffered. Nobody showed me the way.
Yeah.
There was no way, I have to figure out, and there was a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky I know about these things, and I healed myself through the help of God, books, therapy, whatever.
Exactly.
But what about your experience?
I am very, very privileged and very lucky that I was born in the States, to be fair. So I did get bountiful like access to education, to be fair. I had attended private school for like a majority of my life, to be fair. And that's a whole nother thing. I have a whole nother spiel about like private school, to be fair. But essentially, I'm very, very privileged that I have access to even higher education and the education that I did come across. A lot of it, though, is initiation of my own self. So I decided that I wanted to read about psychology because it was an interest to me. And even it's like as much as there are two ends of the spectrum, it's either you have accessibility and therefore you thrive, or you don't have accessibility and therefore you don't. And I think that's completely not true. You adapt in the environment that you are in. So even if you are in a poorer environment, I do believe that you can absolutely be successful and vice versa. You can have all the privileges in the world and you could crumble at your knees if you do not have an appropriate foundation. So I do believe that, at least in my experience, a lot of it has been like 50-50 almost. So it's like certain things I did not have access to, certain things I did. Even my parents, like I don't believe that there is a perfect parent. I take a lot of values from my parents in a way that like I take to heart, to my chest, and to my grave. It's something I very appreciate. But at the same time, my parents also had to learn a lot of different things because they are not from here. They came from Ethiopia, to be fair. So it's like they also had to experience a culture shock in parenting. And mind you, culture shock doesn't last a minute. It's not like you're in a completely new country and then all of a sudden you've acclimated. It takes years and experiences and trials and errors. So they had to go through that as well. And I was with them. We were growing together practically, in this type of environment in America. So a lot of it is learning through their own mistakes, through observation, and recognizing that I didn't want this to be repeated in my own life. I recognized that sometimes this could hurt me or I could hurt them. So being able to have like a bird's eye perspective of understanding like I can do better with this situation despite of its negative outcomes or despite of negatively impacting me. It's what you do with the situation that can make or break you.
So what does it feel like to grow up as Habesha kid in US? What does the experience look like?
An experience.
In a good way or in a bad way or both?
Very equally both. So again, I told you that I had been in private school for like a majority of my life. Unfortunately, these private schools were majority white. So I had truly from like whatever the most capacity there is, I had struggled with my identity as an Ethiopian. I had struggled with my identity as a believer even, because these private schools, again, mind you, they are unfortunately expensive. So it's like, I didn't want to, lose the opportunity that I had. Again, it's like the students that were there, they were not a part of the body of Christ.
Jesus, like most of how much?
It was truly like, even to this day, I will think about the types of students that they were and the culture of the schools that I had attended. And it was...
They're non-believers.
No, it was a Christian school.
Okay.
It was, but how they were acting, it was like they only show up to the church just to show up, just for their presence to be known. And every other day of the week, it was like despicable. Truly speaking, I experienced racism even in...
Wow, like, is there any experience that you can share us? Like, walk me through it. Like, I don't know this kind of experience because I'm Habesha. We're not colonized. I don't know what it feels like racism. It's not in my blood. If somebody comes to me, nigger, whatever N-word he's saying, I don't know. Because I don't know, I don't have that experience. If it's in Kenya, if it's in South Africa, if it's in Ghana, if it's in somewhere, colonized African state, they know how it feels like. But I don't know, but for you, I think the struggle is a lot, I can imagine.
Horrible, truly speaking. Like, it genuinely ruined my own perception of being Ethiopian, of a ruined, borderline like almost ruined my faith with God, to be fair. Because I mean, I had gone through like microaggressions of bullying at the time. So it would be like, your hair, minamin, like, oh, it looks like a lion. It's funny, right? Or it would be like very snide, sneaky comments like, well, you're supposed to be loud, aren't you? Oh, you're fun and you're crazy like that, aren't you? And it would confuse me because it's like, why are you telling me this? Do I need to be like this? Should I be like this? Maybe I should, because I want that like social attention. So unfortunately I fell through a lot of these like sneaky snide little comments because it's like, again, I didn't want to think too deep into it. I just assumed that like, oh, because I'm in a new private school, that this is just how they talk. This is like the way that they are. And I was borderline the only Ethiopian person, to be fair. There are microaggressions, and then it goes off to the extreme where essentially This was during the end of the school day, where it's like dismissal. Essentially, all the children are separated by grade in the bleachers until, a parent comes through the carpool to pick you up, right? So it's like you are just in the bleachers, whatever, right? And I remember walking into the bleachers, and I meant to approach one of my friends, where another person that was in the lower grade looked at me, and then, mind you, he was white, and looked at my other friend who was white, and said, "Oh, what's up, my nigger?" with like hard ER. My reaction was, to be fair, not appropriate. But I remember like looking at him, and I was like, "What did you say?" Mind you, this was middle school. I don't know what triggered me like that. I was like, "What did you say? What did you say?" And I had pushed him to the wall of the bleachers saying, "Tell me again, say it again. What did you say?" And he had been so nervous. He was like, I didn't say it. Look at my online girlfriend, like trying to change the conversation. And I was like, I genuinely saw red. And I didn't know this because, again, I wasn't really paying attention, but the whole entire gymnasium had fallen silent that day because I was like up against him to the bleachers. And then I finally like got a moment of clarity. I was like, I'm going to get expelled. Let me not do this. I would have hit him, mind you, if there was like a millisecond of like my anger left over. I had to like
you're out of character.
Restrain myself. And mind you, that whole perception of like, Black people being angry or whatever, I'm like, I'm gonna be seen as that stereotype. So I literally had to restrain myself and pull away. And as I had stepped away, my friends was like, "Why did you do that?" I was like, "He called me a slur. What do you mean?" But it was funny because he had gotten so nervous that he had actually farted, and I didn't.
That Habesha DNA.
Yeah. I hadn't to that day. I hadn't seen him. I still remember his name. I'm no name drop, but But like that anger was like seething, truly speaking, and I think it's because like a lot of things had like built up by different people, and it was put under a blanket of like, but we're joking. It doesn't matter. It's not that deep. Even like I remember like this one girl even had like locked me in like a gym locker to a point as a joke, and it was like this whole thing. I was genuinely like attacked by my own friend group. You know what I mean? And it was the only friend group that I had. So a lot of it, I just put on my back, like labels on labels on labels. And I took the L every single time because it's like, this is how it's meant to be, ? And it led me to like suffering with my own mental health at that point, severely, like probably like one of the most like darker times of like my entire life, to be fair. Like I was borderline, like, questioning my own existence, my own like reason and will to live. It was so difficult. And it's like, when I look back at it now, it's like, it hurts my heart so much because I was so young at the time. And it's like, that is such an epidemic that we are facing, that our children that are suffering mentally are just getting younger and younger and younger. Like I remember like probably the first time that I started struggling mentally was like, the 5th grade for whatever reason. And it's like, I hate that there is a stigma, you know what I mean? Of just like, buckle up your bootstraps or, do what you got to do. It doesn't matter. Just, keep it pushing. It doesn't matter. And it's like, that is something that we really, really need to deconstruct because it is harming this generation and pushing us away from actually seeking help, finding spirituality or getting solutions like that. Like a lot of it, unfortunately, has been embedded for whatever reason. I know a lot of it is like, a cultural perspective. A lot of it has that type of information has followed through with us in the generations, or is just generally a social stigma. And it is harming us secretively. It's harming us silently. And it is killing us from the inside out. It is not the only enemy that we have in this generation.
The Habesha families, do they understand the younger generation is facing this racism, like this kind of mental illness issue? Do they understand you? Because most of the times, like, for example, in this country, most of rich people are suffering. They are in like stress. they are in mental health issue, and their parents would say, ምን ጎደልሽ? ምትበይው አለሽ፣ ጥሩ ትምህርት ቤት ነው የምትማሪው፣ ልብስሽ እንደዛ ነው፣ ምን ያስጨንቅሻል? They don't understand. They think the food, the shoe, the Nike, the iPhone, this is a solution. But do they understand you in US, like your parents and the parents generally, Habesha community?
You know, there is a split, to be fair, but I don't want to say I'm glad for the split. I'm glad that there is a portion that actually does understand. I would rather for there to be a split than for it to be completely unknown or ignored, to be fair. Like, I know that a lot of parents, sure, they do have the right intentions. A lot of parents are also ignorant in their actions. A lot of parents are kind of forcing spirituality, and that is not how we handle spirituality in that manner. And that actually turns away our children from seeking God by their own footsteps, just because they were raised in a household that is believers, or just because it's like, oh, my mom is telling me to read, or my dad is telling me that I need to go to church, but why should I? That question is valid. Why should you go to church? And that is an answer that as an individual, you have to answer on your own accords, not because of family, not because they're friends at church, not because you've been going to church for a decade. Why should you go to church?
It's a big question.
It has been pushed off as common sense. It is not common sense. It should not be common sense.
Because your relationship with God is your relationship with God.
Period.
Not with your, like, it's like, it is not collective. I believe we have a creator. He created us for a reason. One day we're going to die and we're going to meet him like face to face, and he's going to ask me, personally, not my family, it's not people. No, personally, he's going to ask me everything.
Yeah.
Like, so I understand that because I'm also from Habesha people. I love in Habesha people. Most Habesha people, not Habesha people, most human beings, they hate the question, why? Why? No, I remember there was a girl when I was in university. I started myself, why? And I started asking her, why? Don't ever ask me why. She said, because, and this is this quote I know, a person who figured out why will figure out how and everything. But let me ask you, why should we go to church? Why should we believe in God? Why do you think so?
One testimony that I have is that question has been a very interesting theme in my life. I had obviously been raised in the church. I had been a Sunday school teacher for like 8 years counting. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Well, firstly, I wanted to do Sunday school for the sake of volunteering. Again, my involvement with the kids had meant so much to me. It wasn't until I actually had to corner myself and ask, am I doing this for the kids, or am I doing it just for the sake of getting my daily dose of the church, my weekly dose of the church? I was invested. I had created my own curriculum. I was so involved, invested my own time and money for these children. The passion was fair, but it was the execution that was harming me long term. So I didn't have the correct reason to go to church, unfortunately, even though my execution was a benefit for the children, to be fair. And I had gotten discouraged. And so stepping away from that, I had to realize that God's presence, when he wants you, it is loud. It is abruptive, to be fair. And I had been shaken to my core. Everything had been taken away from me. Like, struggling with school, friends, people, family, like my own passions, my expectations of what I wanted in life genuinely had fell through. Almost every single aspect had fell through because none of those priorities had been involved with God, my relationship with God. Unfortunately, I'd seen the church as a task. And that is how many people in this common day do see it as. You go to church, it's a checkoff list, and you call it a day. You get your daily dose of the church. And that is how I'd seen it, and that how it had hurt me significantly long term.
It's a trap.
It is a trap. It ends up being a cycle of like, if you do not have true intentions of going to the church, if you do not have true intentions of having discipleship, if you do not have true intentions in nurturing your spirit, nurturing your relationship with God, seeking God, having that passion, that fire, it will come back to you in a way that will spite you more than anything. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And that's how God gets our attention, is that unfortunately he is, as much as he is a loving God, he is also a just God.
በተለይ ነፍሳችሁ ጸጥ ያለና ራሳችሁ ማዳመጥ የምትፈልጉ ሰዎች ማየት አለባችሁ። ወደ ራሳችሁ ትመለሳላችሁ። ጫካው ራሱ ተራራ ወርደን ቻሌንጆች ነበሩት። ዛፎቹ ራሱ ያላቸው ፒስፉል ወደ ራሴ እንድመለስ አድርጎኛል። ነገሮችን በተለያየ አቅጣጫ እንዳያድርጎኛል። ከኔቸር ጋር ብዙ እንድገናኝ አድርጎኛል። ብዙ ጓደኞችንም ፈጥሬያለሁኝ። ከፈጣሪ ጋር ብዙ እንዳወራ እንድገናኝ በጣም ረድቶኛል።
የማንያዘዋል እሸቱ 17ኛው ሪትሪት ከጥር 23 እስከ 26 በአርባ ምንጭ ከተማ ይካሄዳል። በ0987 2920 ደውሉና አሁኑን ተመዝገቡ። Because of we saw Jesus Christ, he came as a normal human being. You know what I'm saying? Like he loved us even if we are sinners. So we don't know that part of God. He's gonna ask you. And there are so many stories even Jesus told us we are going to be requested. You know, God is gonna request us. In America, it's a good there is a song in our church, like I'm Orthodox Christian. In Abby's home, there is a song literally አቤት የዚያን ጊዜ ክርስቶስ ሲመጣ ትንሹም ትልቁም መሄጃውን ሲያጣ ወረወረ። ያን መዝሙር ስትሰሚው ያስፈራሻል። የሆነ ቀን እግዚአብሔር አምላክ መጥቶ ምን አድርገሻል ብሎ ይጠይቅሻል። ምን ሰርተሻል ብሎ ይጠይቅሻል። አሁን ሲመጣ በፍቅር ነው የመጣው። ቀጣይ ግን ሲመጣ መላእክትን ይዞ ነው የሚመጣው እና ሙታን ይነሳሉ ይባላል። ባናቀው እግዚአብሔር መሐሪ አምላክ ነው። But let me back to your story then. God
shook me to my core. Shook me and demolished everything around me, including myself.
Including yourself. That's a beautiful part actually. It's painful.
It is pain that I did not want to experience, pain that I've been actively avoiding. And that's where it's like, my issue was I wanted things in my control. I wanted things to my expectation. And having my own will to my own plan, I was placing my assumed power, my assumed capabilities over God's, because I did not want to hear nor care about his involvement in my life, because I wanted it the way that I wanted it. And that was my issue. I was placing my own desires over God's will. And there is a very, very unfortunate epidemic that there is a lack of fear of the Lord. I feel like no one is shaken the way that people need to be shaken in this generation, whether that is due to many distractions in this world. To be fair, a lot of people are very individualistic, especially in the States. I know that America is a very individualistic culture rather than in Ethiopia. And even because Ethiopia is so community-based, oftentimes we will use that community in a negative way and we end up harming each other as well. So there are faults and there are benefits to like the different cultures, but despite of it, where is the fear? Where is the fear of the Lord?
Jesus, trust me, it is going away from this country as well. Since this social media thing, our North Star is the Western culture. Everybody's North Star, our good spiritual cultures are every day dominated by Western cultures. Our very, very past elders, fathers and mothers, everything they did was linked with spirituality and God. Everything. The way they dress, the way they eat, their wedding, their funeral ceremony, everything has some meaning with God. Even the flag, the green, yellow, and red, they took it from God gave this promise for no. And so when the time comes for countries to have their own flag, our fathers, they took these 3 colors from rainbow to represent, to remember our promise with God. Everything they do, it has something to do with Christ, something to do with God, something to do with, like heavenly. But nowadays, we are copying from these Western people and we're deploying in our wedding, in our parties, in our funeral, in our everything. So that the fear of God, even in our churches, God, the fear of God it's going away from our culture. But how did you started to have this relationship with God again? Like suffering is good. If we use it properly, it will take us to spiritual awakening.
Right.
It will lead us to God. Some people are lost. They distract themselves. They drink, like pornography, like social media, partying, like living like animal. But what was the point, or what was the thing that shifted you to God?
So I was aware of my own actions. I just chose not to do anything about it. I was aware that my choices were not glorifying God in any way. I knew that my choices were not glorifying the life that I've meant to have. I knew that my choices were not benefiting me, nor pushing me to success, nor challenging me in any way. It's the fact that I found comfort in sin. I found comfort in making mistakes. I found comfort in doing the wrong thing because it was just simply, I did not want to do the right thing. I did not find comfort. And I feel like that is one of the issues in this generation, is that for some reason, we are not recognizing that there is comfort in righteousness. There is comfort in the Lord. There is comfort in having a relationship with Him. There is comfort in recognizing that any type of set priority or assumed priority that we have, if we place it over God, if we place it over ourselves, it is meant to crumble long term. Whether you find out that result today, tomorrow, 5 years down the road, a month down the road, it does not matter. You are going to end up recognizing that your choices lead up to your own downfall. Your choices also lead up to your own success and righteousness and seeking God and truly having a potent relationship with Him. For me, I had recognized that once everything was taken away from me, that is when I saw clarity, because I was shrouded by my own distractions. I was shrouded by the choices that I was making. And being shrouded was a deliberate choice. It was something that I deliberately knew I was doing. Some people have that recognition and some people don't, but having that awareness is the first step actually towards, becoming in the light of God. So when everything had been taken away from me, or when I had to voluntarily say, I give it to you, God. I give it to you, God, and I have to give you space in my heart for you to intervene. I'm ready. I want to be receptive to you. I want to be accepting of you. That is like that admitting that you have that submission for God. You have to be submissive to faith, period. Or else, you trying to dominate your own choices and you trying to be independent, that places you in a different hierarchy than God, or a hierarchy above God. Idolism, to be fair.
How do I know, or someone knows, it is the choice of him, her, or God's choice? Is there any line or any sign that tell us?
I believe that, again, something that we mentioned earlier is that we cannot force faith. It has to be a deliberate choice that they are open and accepting and receptive to faith. I think that in order to achieve the bountiful blessings and opportunities that God has at hand, mind you, it's just a matter of we have to be ready for it. There has to be an education and awareness. We have to have familiarity of what a lifestyle means, what having faith is, belief system, things like that, and why we have to be willing to break everything down for Him and reconstruct in order to glorify God, in order to live a good life.
In the Bible, it says, deny yourself.
Yeah.
And we love ourselves. My clothes, my cars, my. Even as a Christian, people are building this, this stuff. And one of the core center of Jesus Christ's teaching was to deny yourself, to empty yourself. How do you understand this?
We live in a very materialistic world, unfortunately. Yeah. And when it comes to materialism, we often fall into distractions like my, this belongs to me, this is my possession. However, something that we do need to deconstruct is that nothing truly belongs to us. Rather, we belong to the Lord, period. And that is where our identity lies. Unfortunately, there is a fallen identity where it's like, this belongs to me, such as like clothes. People can have an identity with clothes and it can seem like a harmless thing, or people can fall into owning certain objects or things. It's just materialism as a whole. And that, unfortunately, is like a snake. It kind of slithers into identity. This belongs to me. I associate this with who I am. Therefore, this is what we think of. When you think of identity, it's like, who are you? You can say that you have a podcast. You can say that you are involved in, internet culture. You can say that you are involved with your own ethnicity as an Ethiopian. Being an Ethiopian can belong to you, right? But the thing is, it's like people often misconstrue it and take it to another degree that shouldn't be. We belong to the Lord, period. We belong to the body of Christ, period. Nothing belongs to us on this temporary earth. We are meant to return home. Nothing here matters if we are not glorifying God. Allow God to produce his presence and his blessings. Again, the problem is that we are often layering what it means to have an identity on earth. And it is in a completely different direction than where we need to be at. You can associate yourself with different objects and experiences and things like that. I experience this. I feel like I am this type of person, or your personality traits. I feel like I'm funny, whatever. But it's, again, that extremism that people often fall into that they don't associate as extremism. You can fall, it's like a slippery slope to the point of like you lose your identity with God. You end up distancing yourself. God never moves. Mind you, if he were to step away with us, that would be hell, period. He's not going to step away, nor has he ever. Again, there are consequences. There are spiritual consequences that we have to face. We are intentionally stepping ourselves away from God out of comfort, distraction from the world, from ourselves, from other people or other things. So when we do step away, we're going to face those consequences regardless.
I know the father in Egyptian Coptic Orthodox Church, they were a pope. I have read most of their books. In one of their books, I probably have read 10 of their books. They are one of the people who built my spirituality foundation. And they said, one of in their book, እግዚአብሔር ካንተ ስርቅና አንተ ከእግዚአብሔር ስትርቅ ይለያያል. When God steps away from you and when you are step away from God, it's totally different thing. Yeah. You said he is always with us. Can you imagine one day? Sometimes I'm so confused why he loves me and us. Why? I mean, like, why? We are ignorant. We every single day, I mean, we are not obeying his law. Everything. We are like materialistic. We are non-spiritual. We are always loving money, fame, even devilish things more than him. But he still loves us. He still, when we call out, he comes. And I'm confused why he loves us. Why?
That why question, I feel like, is a question of the flesh. So our flesh, or how the human brain works, is that we do often try to everything is almost like a puzzle piece. We want things that make sense, and we don't understand why things don't make sense. So we are asking a spiritual being, something that can transcend our own consciousness, something that our brains can literally not fathom who he is. Yeah. Why? Such a human question.
Yeah.
To ask why.
There is no why.
I think that rather it's like our Holy Spirits, it's more asking the question, why not? Why is something that limits our relationship with God? Of course, we are going to be faced with but I am born with sin, but I have made mistakes, but I have done this and whatever. And we think about it in the grand scheme of things. Yes, God has genuinely made every single aspect of the human life. So it's not just he made the earth and he made the stars and he made the animals. It's every corner and inch and centimeter of what science really is that we don't really understand. The whole universe in itself. How does consciousness even work? How does mindfulness even work? How am I existing? right now. And you can go on a whole tangent of things. The only thing that he wants reciprocal of us is his, us being able to approach him submissively, spiritual submission to him. And that reciprocates, and that is so worthy. We cannot replicate the world. We cannot replicate his creations. We cannot replicate what it means to have logic and reason into a different being. We are made in his image, and that is enough. An animal cannot think the way that we do because we have logic and reasoning. That is how we are made in his image. So we are meant to glorify his image by doing so. We are meant to respect his image by doing so. And falling into these fleshly, I mean, it's a fair question. Of course, how can you not ask why?
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Like, when you know him, especially when you experience him, he loves you. For example, I know God loves me, and I know God loves people. Because the God in me wants us to serve people for no reason. Like, it's not me. I know this. For example, there was a girl who's crying. She sent me an audio. Like, I know you have no time. You will never listen this voice, but I'm sending it anyway. But the God in me says, yo, listen everything what she said and say this. It's not me. It's not my goodness. I know. And Jesus, most of the time he says, why you call me good? I'm not good. The Father in heaven is good. It's not me doing the job. It's the Father in me that's doing the job. The Father in us is trying to save people. When you're conscious, most of our goodness comes from the God in us. But we ignore to test it. And the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. Not why caution talking, but be still and know that I am God.
And that is enough. It is enough to answer any question or doubt or concern. It is enough to know that our God is present. It is enough to know that he is here. All this why question is us trying to understand him or trying to put him in a box almost. How can we put him in a box? The why question is almost limiting to God, his whole existence, the definition of who he is. It is limiting to ask why. It is a very human question to ask why.
In human, you will never experience the inhuman, the infinite God. With your senses, you will never experience him. God is nonsense. It's beyond these 5 senses. You know, it is deep, infinite, beyond our intelligence, beyond our knowledge. That's why the so-called intellectual peoples, they miss God. But you have to be what they call the meek the heart, or I don't know in English, like they will see God because they don't ask. They will feel him. But you want to touch God. You want to measure him. You want to measure him and you want to, with this little mind, you will say, this is God. No. You are connected with him. Without him, you will never see or experience things. But do you have time that you specifically set to have some relationship with God? This is stillness, this quietude, silence. You disconnect yourself from the internet or do whatever, and I want to experience God. Do you have any kind of private moment with God?
I think that in order to have a private moment with God, you also have to recognize the roles that the two parties are in, you versus God. So it is creation, us, versus creator, him. And there is meant to be that distance. Our roles are meant to be submissive. We are meant to follow through. We are meant to be attentive to him. So understanding the role that you are meant to have with God, not out of demanding things like a vending machine, not out of expectations.
Vending machine, I like it.
Yeah, unfortunately, people treat God like a vending machine.
Yeah,
it's the
server and give me this, give me that.
Yeah.
Why? God is needed when they are only in trouble, when they need money or something else.
Exactly. It's you only want him when you need him, not when you don't need him or when you think that you don't need him.
Did.
Yeah,
Ruth, you did. I like you so much. Wow.
I would say that very, very frankly, There is no such thing as a perfect believer, obviously. I would say that you do have to intentionally seek that moment. I feel like a lot of people do believe that. It's like, when's God gonna find me? When am I gonna have like a dream that the world is gonna end? Or when am I gonna hear his voice and the whole building shakes? It's like, why are you looking for the obvious and expecting God to give you a performance? Is your spirit ready for his performance? No. You have to learn and you have to get ready and you have to prep yourself for God to truly intervene what you think he is. People are saying like, well, God doesn't do what he does, in biblical times. He's not splitting the Atlantic. He's not, killing babies or whatever. It is the fact that like, why can't we seek God in the silence?
ግራ መጋባትና ጭንቀት ውስጥ ኖት። የልጅነቶ ስቃይ ልቦትን አቁስሏል። የትዳሮ መሻከር ሕይወቶን አጨልሟል። ምክንያቱን በማያውቁት መጥፎ ስሜት ውስጥ ኖት። ብቻዎትን አይደሉም። ልቦትን የሚያሳርፍ አእምሮን ጸጥ የሚያሰኝ ቦታል። አዲስ ሰው የሚያደርጎት ልምምዳል። የእውነት ለመዳን ምርጥ አጋጣሚ ነው። ጫጫታ ከሞላበት ዓለም እንውጣ። ወደ ተፈጥሮ ሰላም ወደ አርባ ምንጭ እንሂድ። በ17ኛው ሪትሪት ላይ እንሳተፍ። ከጥር 23 እስከ 26 በውቢቷ ሰላም በምትሰጠው አርባ ምንጭ ከተማ በ0987 2090 አሁኑን ደውላችሁ ተመስገቡ።
ልጅነቴ ነው ያገኘሁት። በዓለም ጠፍቼ ነበረ። ከዛ በኋላ ግን ወደዚህ ከመጣሁኝ በኋላ ከአምላክ ጋር ያለኝ ግንኙነት እንድመልስና እንዳስተካክል አድርጎልኛል።
Rather than the performative.
Jesus. That was what Jesus did in the Bible. He wanted to be alone. He went up to the mountain. People come to him. Even when his disciples were praying, he was like alone. We don't see that. There is a Pythagorean or Pascal. He said, like, the problem of this world is people, they don't close their door and stay stillness alone. No TV, no radio, no music, no social media, but creator and, the created. The lover and the beloved, the father and the son. This relationship is personal relationship with God. Some meeting, I'm tired. I feel lost. I want you. It's not the money. It's not a toy I want this private moment. I want to hear your voice. I want you to guide me. I want to cry in front of you. I want you to show him sometimes, because this world, when you see it, the world is really recently becoming very, very off. It is becoming off. Whether you are living in US, in Dubai, in Ethiopia, whether you're rich, poor, Muslim, Christian, the world is getting off. Last night I was at a nice restaurant here in Bali, me with my teams, and I am seeing cool people, and I'm looking into their eyes. They are insecure. They are lost. They are unhappy. They are distracting themselves. I can feel with nice clothes, nice things, but I can see in their eyes the energy. They are unhappy. And I know in the States even worse.
Easily, to be fair. I mean, like, there are different financial values here in Ethiopia versus in the States. There are, mind you, because we're not spiritually oriented as a priority, to be fair. And a lot of people are coming from a lot of different backgrounds. A lot of people are coming from a lot of different experiences. And I don't know, even I've had people in my life, or I've come across people in my life where almost being a believer or, attending church was something not cool, or, something like nerdy, to be fair. And it's like, that perspective is very telling of like that short-term versus long-term gratification. You know what I mean? That long-term gratification, us believers have that skill, knowing that he is going to deliver us in a way that is immensely different than anything accessible to us now. We understand that there is a difference of doing the work, spilling your blood for God, serving him, so that he can rescue us from a fallen, secular world. America is very secular.
Yeah,
extremely
don't care
secular.
about God.
Yeah. Unless you seek and find a church, you're gonna find yourself in that space. Yes, again, like generally secular, and it puts us believers at a challenge to
Do
seek
you
God.
believe that serving God will help you to win in the secular world?
it will give you familiarity. So again, like when I was serving in the church, I had started falling into this idea of like I was getting my daily dose of, being in church, but it wasn't feeding me. I was feeding for other people, and my cup had become empty and I was still running on dry. So it's like, I think that there needs to be a balance of like, if it is truly your spiritual gift, then by all means you can serve in the church. And that is a spiritual gift, being able to serve in the church. But, you do have to feed yourself, nurture yourself. Physically being in a church doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You could stand in a hallway of a church and it is basically the same thing as like, well, I work in the church for this minamin. But it's like, are you doing anything about it? Are you feeding yourself? Are you doing something outside of church? But I mean, unfortunately, just because you have authority in a church, it doesn't mean that, God is going to be accepting of that, or he's not going to reward you for, I don't know, being the technical side of church. I mean, I'm not saying anything, but...
Do you know this verse in the Bible? Jesus said, በሰማይ ያለው የአባቴን ሕግ የሚፈጽም እንጂ ጌታዊ የሚል ሁሉ የአባቴን መንግስት አይወርስም። በስምህ ታምራት አላደረግንምን? በስምህ ሰይጣን አላወጣንምን? በስምህ ይሄንና ያን አላደረግንምን? አላውቃችሁም እላችኋለሁ ነው የሚለው። You know what I'm saying? አላውቃችሁም የት ነው የምንተዋወቀው? ተአምር ስላደረግሽ ዛሬ ሰይጣን ስላወጣሽ ወይ የሆነ ነገር ስላደረግሽ እግዚአብሔር አንቺን ያቅሻል ማለት አይደለም። እግዚአብሔር የሚፈልገው is our consciousness, our attention, our submission. He wants that. We're ignoring it and we are suffering as humanity.
We are truly like at fault. And the thing is, it's like, again, you can be comfortable in your own sin. You can be comfortable being lukewarm. Even you can be comfortable being like Ananias and Sapphira, saying that, you're involved in the church and you give money, but you still have some selfish, intention with your engagement with the church. Too many ways that we can fall into sins, too many ways that we can fall into temptation, and there are too many ways that we can find fault. Again, there is one way where we can ultimately fix ourselves. There's one way where it's not even fixing ourselves, it's admitting how we can approach salvation. And that requires, again, submission. It requires for you to have humility to admit and have awareness what you've done wrong. And we live in a very prideful generation. Super prideful of sticking to your guns with whatever decision that you have made. And whether that is due to ego, whether that is due to whatever culture that you exist in, or almost like a short-term gratification, we need to unlearn a lot of what we've learned habitually, because it is harming our children. It is harming us to become better parents. It is harming the family function. It is harming how we impact the world. And it is not who we are meant to be as servants of God.
What is the danger of short-term gratification?
You end up in a vicious, disgusting loop because you are constantly seeking and seeking and seeking, and it is never the same the first time. And now this short-term happiness is not something that will gratify our flesh nor the spirit. So you think that it will gratify the flesh, and because unfortunately people that are in short-term gratification cycles, it's the flesh it's all that they can think about. It is all that they can think about. They are not thinking about the spirit. So their spirit is hungry, but they're feeding it to the flesh. So it's the vicious cycle over and over again when they are seeking out more and more in different extremities of what can I do to fill. What am I craving? They don't know what they're craving because they're feeding themselves with the wrong things, period. And this can be an expanse of different things. It's not your typical like, oh, drugs or drug abuse or whatever. It can be even social attention. It can be independence. It can be unhealthy achievement when you think that your identity is in achieving or being able to brag. And unfortunately, I will say this with my whole chest, Ethiopians love to brag.
Yeah.
For one reason or another.
We love to brag.
We love to brag.
Even more than US. Like America.
The nationalism.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Crow Habeshaning. I know. But like, America, look, the pop culture is all about bragging, like
Yeah.
this thing, my chain, like my watch, like my car. This is like, you guys are known for. Which one are you? Are you Ethiopia or America? Both. You choose Ethiopia. Come on.
Well, the thing is, it's like, it's all about like this whole conversation of like, what is your ethnicity? What's your race? What nation are you coming from? You know what I mean? And then that also requires education, to be fair. Yes, I was born in America. Yes. Shocker. But
But you identify yourself as an Ethiopian.
of course I'm Ethiopian. Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of ignorance is in our country. I mean, like lately, I am trying to figure out what our fathers, cause like if you are inside a car in ride or in Uber in our country, like ride in our country, or first, like if you ask the driver, do you believe in God? What kind of question is that? But in America, if you ask them, do you believe in God? It's a true question. Here, it's not a question. Or 98% of the people believe in God, either in Allah or in Jesus or whatever. I truly wanted to know the source. This country is different. For example, the day I met you in Arba Minch, I was at my church, Qudus Gabriel Church. Yes, and we were donating books, and I was having discussion with the priest of the church. We call it Yeneta. He teaches people. He he educates diacons, priests, whatever. There was a golden era in Ethiopian culture. There was a king as a Gebre Meskel, and there was Qudus Yared and Abu Naragawi. These were saints. They truly were like the lover of God. They truly love God. They served God. They planted so many churches. And if you heard about Qudus Yared, have you ever heard about him?
Unfortunately, no.
Jesus Christ. I want you to study about him. Have you ever been to Ethiopian Orthodox Church in US, or have you ever heard Qudasi or something from afar?
I believe that the last time that I attended an Orthodox church was granted a few years ago. I'm not too familiar with, well, my parents were Orthodox actually at some point. So I was familiar to a degree with like being in an Orthodox Ethiopian church, and many, especially in the DMV, there is a lot of Orthodox.
What do you feel when you're there?
It was definitely a learning experience. Again, it's like a lot when it comes to experiencing a church, it's like you do have to take down expectations and assumptions. It's like you are going to learn something different. You are going to experience something different.
True, but trust me, most people, I myself, don't know nothing about Qudus Yared. But when I was a kid, in a church, there is a thing called Mahalit. There was, I don't know nothing about God that time. I don't know what they're saying. I'm there. There is a kabaro, there is a tzanasel, there is a beautiful mazmur or mahalet. It really grabs my heart. Even if I don't know the meaning, but I know it's sacred. I know it, like I listen. And the priest we met, the day I met you, he told me, I was asking him about different questions. And is it music scene? And he said, if, for example, the Holy Bible, መጽሐፍ ቅዱስ የተባለው is because ስለ ቅዱስ እግዚአብሔር ስለሚያወራ ነው። ስለ ቅዱስ እግዚአብሔር የማያወራ ነገር ሁሉ ምንድነው? ጽድቅ አይደለም አሉኝ። ይቀርበልኝና ሰው how did ይሄ እኮ አሉና በ600 ክፍለ ዘመን 1400 years ago, meaning Qudus Yared was there in Aksum. Everybody was simply, dancing, singing. They're not praising God. He was really, really worried. How I can let these people praise God? He was worried. And he was meditating, and 3 birds come. He literally went to the heaven. He saw how angels praising Lord. And one of the birds said, yo, are you like observing well? He said, it's beyond my mind. Do this, do that, write it down. He came on the earth. He created this song. Is Ararai የሚባል it's like Ab Weld Manfas Qudus. He created this beautiful song for people to praise God. He created it. We know nothing about him. We, not you, we, even diacons, people, they know nothing about that guy. He's a truly saint. He truly saint, even if I don't know his story. When I hear his name, like we have such kind of fathers who truly care about God, who sacrificed, who created this classic, timeless music, timeless, what we call ቅዳሴ, timeless ማለት to worship God. They created this ከበሮ with meaning, and we are ignoring them. And if do you know Justin Bieber? Do you know Young Thug? Do you know like Eminem, Drake? Do you know Katy Perry? Do you know like Kendrick Lamar? It's cool. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar. It's cool. It's fine. It's nice. We dress like him. We talk like him. We watch their song. These are our heroes. If as a Christian, if you hold the Holy Bible or ውዳሴ ማርያም, if you're going to church now, you're weird. What do you mean? How? Like, look at them. They are unhappy. They are smoking. All they do is like short-term gratification. They are our idols. I mean, like, I don't know, we're in trap.
Idolatry is much more sneaky in this like modern age that we're in. It's more than like building a golden statue of like a goat and like falling to your knees. It is whatever priority you place over God, over your relationship with God, over maintaining your mission for God. Whether that is, here's the thing, like people listening to music, some people will fall more influenced than others in certain themes or culture or media or habits or things like that. It's anything, literally anything that you place over God, period. So in this culture, it's because I feel like with this generation, and I say this because I'm a part of this generation, we are the most distracted. We are the most distracted. There are too many obstacles that we are hitting, and at every single corner, we have to be so intentional with how we carry ourselves in the secular world. It is difficult. It is something, it's an active mission every waking moment. We have to intentionally think about, is this something that's going to glorify God? Is this something that's going to benefit me spiritually? Is this something that down the road I might regret? Is this something that is not in any way helping me become a better person, etc., etc., etc.? There are too many faults in the secular world. Like the secular world is complicated. It has become a puzzle at this point, a maze even, to exist here. And that, I mean, regardless of that, I do feel like if we live as believers, despite of the complicated environment that we are in, that makes our relationship with God that much stronger, more stronger than that, because we're facing trials and tribulations with every, breath. And if we are turning to God in every single moment, well, I mean, granted, we are beings of flesh. So we are not going to be the perfect example at every single moment. But if it is about redemption, it is about repentance, it is about returning to God, that matters, rather than just admitting defeat. I mean, like, well, I'm here. Might as well just, exist in the secular world. I failed. I can't do nothing else. Where it's God he's there always. If we're moving back and forth, we will find him at the exact same spot every single time. We can't lose God. It's more if we lose ourselves away from God. Yeah. That becomes the issue.
He says, before you speak, I hear. That's how near he is. Mm-hmm. But you said a good thing, like we are the most destructive generations of all the time. What distracts us in you the most, do you think?
I think that, again, America is very, very secular. We are also a very individualistic culture as well. So it's not even, again, every parent has heard the argument, you're on your phone too much, it's social media, whatever. I feel like that is such a low level distraction, to be fair. Really? It is like, it's really not that deep, to be fair.
What is the high level distraction? I want to know, because I thought you're going to call out for social media or...
Social media, the thing is, it's like, I mean, I know not everyone's going to agree with me with this, but it's like anything can be used to an extremity and can hurt you. If you go to the gym, yeah, that's healthy. Again, if you are there 6 hours a day and you have like an unhealthy image of your body and all of a sudden now you're struggling with body dysmorphia, anything to an extreme is harmful, period. Even something that's good. You know what I mean? So
it's ሲበዛ ይመራል ይባላል በእኛ ሀገር ማርም you know mar honey yeah ሲበዛ ይመራል okay keep going you good
So it's like I don't know, I feel like some parents often pin it's social media, I need to take away the phone and like it's harming my kid, but that's not the only reason. How is your household like?
Wow.
What is your what are the roles that you present to your children? Are you a leader? Are you a believer? Where is the fault? You can't simply put blame on these kids. They cannot control the environment that they exist in. They live in their own culture that they cannot control. So you're pinning the culture and that fault to your own children. Unfortunately, I've heard that argument, and it's like it's a very poorly constructed argument. You can't just keep blaming these kids. What about you? Let's have some like self-awareness. Let's, admit the faults that we have. I would say like anything, even again, America is super very individualistic. So again, we also have this culture of like grind. You know what I mean? Grinding, money, do what you gotta. There's no village to help you. You have to do it on your own. And so we are suffering ourselves. We are our own enemy. Period. And it's like, because we're pushing and pushing and pushing for ourselves, what ends up happening is that we're also pushing away God. Because again, you exist in the culture. Sometimes you end up being the byproduct of your own environment. And that's something that we cannot control. But you can also control certain aspects as well. It's not like you are completely a byproduct of your own environment, but some people, because they don't have the initiation to do something, they end up being copy-paste to every other person that falls ill to their own environment. You have to be different. You have to take initiative. You have to bleed. You have to work. And you have to have awareness to admit that something is wrong within yourself. And maybe you're reciprocating this generational pattern that's harming you, your family, your loved ones, everybody, your church even. It is a disease that is spreadable, a very, very contagious disease that we exist in. And we are not protecting ourselves. We are not being adamant of how to prevent this. And yet, who are we to point fingers at every other environmental factor that we exist in? It's the social media. It's the public schools. It's Minamin. It's my children's friends. But we can prevent this. Some experiences are meant to be learned. We can't protect our children from every single experience at hand. Our children have to learn how to be strong, adamant, and separate themselves from these experiences, from these influences. And if they do happen to go through these influences, they have to learn to step away from that. They have to learn how to better themselves from these negative influences. It's raising them up to be little adults. Can you teach your child how to problem solve? Can you teach your child how to have coping strategies? We don't really think about that. We just think about, brush your teeth or, clean up after yourself, say please and thank you, which is important. Please teach your children manners, to be fair. But again, there is a lot more to parenting than we are willing to admit. And a lot of it comes from the home. How a parent was raised, the traumas that they carry, it was out of survival. That's what I've noticed in the Ethiopian community. We are normalizing survival. Like just because even like corporal punishment, like hitting and, quintet, everything like that. Why are we normalizing being victims of that?
Isn't it normal?
No. Oh, it's child abuse to any degree, period. The child is being, basically you are not creating a safe environment.
You think every content is bad?
You are setting a very poor example that physical aggression is how you produce submission. What does that say about the world? What does that say?
The world is gonna መቆንጠጣቸው አይቀርም at the end of the day. Because these days, like especially the rich people, they give everything for their kids.
Yeah.
Everything is not given. Even God himself were given everything for this Israel, they say. They become soft.
I don't think it's...
They started now... like, there's a punishment, right? At the end of the day. እዚህ ምድር ላይ አንድ ሰው ሲያጠፋ መታሰሩ አይቀርም። መገደሉ ላኳ አለ አይደለ? መጽሐፍ ቅዱስ ላይ እኮ ራሱ እግዚአብሔር የሚወደው ልጅ ይቀጣል ይላል። not every suffering is bad ብዬ ነው የማስበው። አሁን the problem is these unconscious parents their anger unconsciousness ወስዶ ልጆቻቸው ላይ ይገርፋሉ፣ ይመታቸዋል፣ ምን ያደርጋቸዋል?
Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
Yes.
But I think sometimes you need to be sometimes, because I was like watching Chris Rock's, you know him? Yeah, Chris Rock, comedian.
No.
He was like, he is performing on the stage. He's saying like, Chris Rock is a comedian. He says, some kids are evil. My kids, for example, he said, she bit another woman's kid. I didn't teach her this. I believe sometimes there is a consequence for that, and we have to be somehow punished. Because I am seeing kids, these day kids, they are so much soft. My mom took my soul, literally. When my brother was ሲቆነጠጥ እኔ ሰውነት ሌሽን ቴሌቪዥን ነው። I remember when I was a kid, ሰው ቤት ተቀጥሬ ይሰራ ነበር. I was grade 3. And my friends, they are ሀብታም ልጆች, rich. I was meant to ሾፑን መጠበቅ ነበረብኝ. So when they play, ራስቸው ሄጄ መጫወት ጀመርኩ. He abused me. That guy took my soul. Trust me. He abused me. I would say like, it's not ትንሽ የመቆንጠጥ. He's like, he abused me. I was like, ሰውነቴ ላይ እስኪሸና ድረስ. He took my soul. I'm not talking about that kind of things.
Corrective
የሆነ cause the world is gonna somehow ይቆነጠጠኛል። አይቀርልኝም አይደለም ግን we take it, you said to it, the extreme is whatever to extreme. በሃይማኖት ራሱን ይባላል ክር ራሱ ሲወጠር ይበጠሳል ይባላል። በጣም የሚያከሩ ሰዎች ናቸው ተመልሰው እግዚአብሔርን የሚያጠቁት። there should be a balance somehow. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like it's a very my perspective on this, right, is like I understand how people perceive corporal punishment as like, how else are you meant to implement a punishment or like cause effect? It's for you to decrease a behavior, right? That's the whole point of corporal punishment. But the thing is, it's like, number one, I do feel like it ruins the relationship between child and parent. So it is setting an image of like, I am not safe in my home, nor am I safe with this trusted adult. And in the home, you are meant to have trusted adults, right? And the thing is, for obviously, what I will assume, I know it's not like every single case, but for a parent to implement corporal punishment, it means like possibly it's like the last resort, right? It's not like the first resort. Yeah. Like it leads up to it. Again, the thing is, it's like for a parent to do that, that means they've felt or they believe that they've already exhausted their choices. And corporal punishment is the one thing that they're going to listen to. So number one, you're teaching your child like, hey, you can keep pushing and pushing and pushing the limit, and then you have to stop. We have to teach our children that stop means stop, period. Not that they can get away with it every single time. So there are different ways to implement consequence, what a consequence even means. It just means a result. A consequence doesn't have to be negative or positive. It can be both. Just a consequence, right? So on top of that, it's, you know what you're telling me, like she bit, right? It's just children end up using their bodies for the first time. They are living for the first time. They are existing and understanding cause and effect for the first time. So that is why we do have to have that patience, but we also need to implement structure.
Is there a better way?
Yes.
Show me that. Tell me that. I mean, like, I want that. I mean, I want my audience to learn about it.
So,
because these days, this is a prime, like I heard, I mean, can I get legally like they will call 911 and my mom is doing like,
I know.
They're going to take away.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is the right way?
So essentially, there are 4 different types of parenting, right? There is permissive parenting, where it's essentially you're letting the child like go bonkers. You're letting the child do whatever they want with no consequences, right? So they literally, every single time that they do something, they get reinforced or like encouraged to do it more. And there's no consequence implemented, right? There is also uninvolved parenting, right? So uninvolved parenting is when you straight up just, you don't give a consequence, you don't give a benefit, anything like that. You're just simply uninvolved. Obviously, those two are absolutely harmful for the child, period. For permissive parenting, the child doesn't learn how to earn. The child doesn't learn how to work for things. The child doesn't understand that they have to, they can't get, they just end up learning that they can get whatever they want all the time and spoiled. You know what I mean? We are raising just soft. That's what people are thinking. Soft children is produced by permissive parenting, right? So, and then there's uninvolved, and then there is authoritative, and then there is authoritarian. So those two are different, right? There is one where it's like, it is super, super, super strict. Too many rules. You give little to no reinforcement or encouragement or affection. And it is like strict by strict by strict by strict. And I feel like there's some Ethiopian parents or Habesha parents that happen to have that parenting style, and it's so restrictive emotionally, right? So the ideal parenting style is where you do have to, you do reinforce structure, but you also have reinforcement, encouragement, things like that. What I do like to tell parents is that you can have a reinforcement system, right? So it's like kind of like the reason why parents do chores, period. You know what I mean? So it's a child can learn developmentally appropriate tasks in order for them to earn what they want, right? Rather than for them to say, well, I want to get this. Why can't I have it? Now they have, I don't know, they think that they have access to your money just because they're children. They have to earn realistically, as much as like there's a difference between supporting your children financially and, you know, giving them food, water, whatever, bare minimum, versus like truly being active in your children's lives, period. And where corporal punishment kind of comes into all of this is that the fact that it ends up being a last resort means that you are not reinforcing enough prior. What happens to the stages before you decide, I'm going to hit my kid, or I'm going to pinch my kid, or I'm going to, you know, use physical aggression in whatever degree, period. I'm highly against it.
Yeah. But like most people, they don't think about their kids. For example, in front of, my office is on the third floor. There is a school, a very fancy school, a good school, private school. People with their fancy cars, they come, they drop the children. And sometimes I see the teacher stressed and motivated teacher. Even before the class session, there is a very, very authoritative guy. Laikum, stop it!
Yeah.
Like he's shouting on them.
Yeah.
I can say the discipline is very tight.
Yeah.
And most people, because they paid for their children's school, they think every solution of their children is going to be solved.
Parents need to be parents. I've even struggled with it at some point. Like, at least in the States, there is a lack of resources for our teachers. To be fair, a lot of teachers are actually paying out of pocket in order to support these children.
In the US?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
it's not every case, but it is a very common case, period, where
I hear even some students come and ask the teacher food even. 15 million Americans, they have shortage of food. I heard this report, and it's very, very shameful for the richest country in the world. Still people together. You're supporting $8 billion or $17 billion Israel for Ukraine, and for your own kids, no food. It's shame.
It is displaced in a very dysfunction. You know what I mean? Like, it is not appropriately divided in a way that makes sense and is fair to the individual American, period. Because I understand that parents in this day and age, again, inflation is going up, like availability for resources are going down. So again, parents are going through stress, to be fair, and to be able to place your child in an assumingly safe environment for 8 hours of the day. You know what I mean? You kind of fall into the slippery slope of being uninvolved, right? So because parents are unknowing, even like of the school, like how to access your kids' grades, you know what I mean? A lot of parents actually don't know how to do that, nor reach out to a teacher. Like, parents need to be more involved, and students end up slipping into the point of like having to repeat grades or having behavioral issues because nothing is implemented in the home. Or it's like the parenting style that they do happen to have is not benefiting their child and is ruining the relationship that they have in the household. just as a whole. It is a very adamant issue that, again, if without the education or the awareness to be better as human beings, then we're going to continue down this path.
And it's all over the world. It's not
Yeah.
only for Habesha community.
No.
The entire humanity is suffering. We might be economically different,
Yeah.
but we are lost mentally, we are lost emotionally, and more importantly, we are lost spiritually. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
That's the foundation. Let's talk about this, your age. How old are you?
52.
52,
Yeah.
25.
No. Lower. 22 in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
So,
Happy birthday.
thank you.
Early wish.
Thank you.
So let's talk about those youngsters. What do you feel when you see them? Like, because I can see your thinking is ahead of your age group.
I'll say for like the younger generation, like Gen Alpha, I think.
Gen Z?
I'm Gen Z. The generation below me, Gen Alpha.
Whoa.
Because
I'm millennial. There is baby boomers.
Yeah.
Our parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
But speaking for Gen Alpha first, what I will say, unfortunately, due to their access of social media and because a lot of it had been just not monitored because of the influx of media usage and internet usage from quarantine, our children are growing up too fast. Like, scary. It is so scary how quickly they're growing up. Like, our children are not children. And it is like so unfortunate how they've been exposed to certain things and even dialect, how they've been exposed, or just the exposures are making them grow up too fast. And I feel like it is not developmentally appropriate for them to be experiencing so many things, to be fair. And I think that it is, again, the seed that has been planted for them to start going down the slippery path has been set too soon. I feel like the period of struggle initially started a lot later for Gen Z and for the older generations, but specifically for the younger generation, that seed had been planted like when quarantine started. I'll just say that. Or even, again, not all millennial parents are doing this, but there is an influx of millennial parents that are raising children with too much screen time, to be fair. So again, by doing so, by raising your child with too much screen time or like under the age of 2, essentially what happens is that their tolerance and to get away from high frequency stimulation, you know what I mean? They're not able to self-soothe. They're not able to self-entertain or entertain themselves. Depletion of development when it comes to language or when it comes to just their development as a whole. It is ruined. And I'm very looking forward to see like these children that have been raised when quarantine impacted them the most, or iPad babies is what they're, calling them, to be fair. It's like, I'm very interested to see what research lies ahead in the future. Like what is going to happen to them? Like their education, or even media literacy it is so sad that it is like non-existent at this point, especially for like, again, younger generation. I'm so very blessed to have higher education. To be fair, I understand that that's not accessible to every single person, but I feel like media literacy on its own should be understood, and we are just falling as a generation.
What do you mean when you say media literacy?
Media literacy, essentially, like how we interpret media. For example, let's say that you happen to come across an article that says the development of children has decreased within the past 10 years, something along the lines of that. And you take that article and just run with it. You don't check the sources. You don't check the how recent the article has been produced. You don't check citations. You don't actually read the article. You're not interpreting it in the way that's supposed to. You're not finding supporting articles as well. Like, what are different people, are they saying different things? Is this a reliable source? And so again, like, because this splurge of media and exposure, like, we are, like, as a generation, just taking bits of information that don't make sense, nor are they correct, nor are they reliable, and running with it. And I say this for the older generation as well. One CNN article of like food is poisoning you, and just running with it when it could just be like a safe bacteria.
5 steps to success.
Yeah.
Who is that guy? For example, in our country, we have been given so much attention for no one. I mean, like, they don't know what they're talking about, but so much attention is in there. If you go for the litany of influencers, like number 1, number 2, who are they? What is their source of knowledge? They're literally, they are nobody.
Yeah, we're getting sources from the wrong people, or information from the wrong people.
Yes, for example, like, you came here in Ethiopia. So you know the Ethiopia in the social media. Yeah. What is the difference when you came here and you heard from the media and the Ethiopia you experienced it? Is there a difference?
So at least growing up when I was younger, there was like infomercials about like Ethiopia has no water for 5 cents a day. You know, you could like feed an orphan, and it's just like, I mean, it's harmful. I mean, I understand that people can experience homelessness everywhere. It is a universal experience. No, everywhere, right? And I think that, like, what we often do is have ecocentrism, so believing that we are better, basically from where we are from, thinking that we're better. And so a lot of it needs to be deconstructed, and that can be deconstructed through research. That can be deconstructed through experiencing it for the first time. Ethiopia is bountiful, don't get me wrong. Anywhere you're going to find homeless people experiencing homelessness, and anywhere you can find people struggling with the economy. It's a very unfortunate thing, but it shouldn't be commercialized. It shouldn't be like, again, even with like, I just don't want Ethiopia to be like a tourist country. You know what I mean? Like, I want Ethiopia to be valued for what it is, for the culture, for the family, for the experiences, for the riches of Ethiopia. I just don't want it to be like, aw, miskeen. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to be seen as something that you can just, you know, toss $1 and be like, I'm a better person now. Nor do I want it to be like, I don't want tourism to ruin Ethiopia as well. You know what I mean?
Because tourism ruined so many countries.
Yeah, it has. At the moment, I mean, I can't say from experience, but I know that tourism can have a benefit. But in long term, you know, I just want financially support the people that do benefit from tourism. And just for long term, it can truly, like, it's horrific results, like Hawaii even. You know, Hawaii has been impacted with tourism, unfortunately.
In a good way and bad way?
Bad way.
Yeah. Even in Spain, people was, you know, like, fighting with tourists, get out of our country.
Yeah.
Because there is a danger in that. Because, for example, I came from Arbanj. You saw the place.
Yeah.
The energy.
Yeah.
It's very naturally
Beautiful.
gifted.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm poisoned. I mean, I like it. But somehow I'm scared. When most people discover, you know, when most people there, they have influence over the people, over the culture. Because benches, the dollar can change everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, our fathers and mothers, they were very, very spiritually connected, culturally tied. They have this culture of eating together. You know, like, even the food is like sahan no. Nowadays, again, someone takes we are like, you know what, if you and I, we eat together, we're sharing the meal, I can feel your energy, good shot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but we're not valuing those things. These were remedies. remedies for loneliness, individualism, suffering. When you are together, when you are worshiping together, eating together, crying together, you feel this connection. The cross, it has like this relationship is with God. You with God, the longer one, you with people. So without people, there is no spirituality. There is no nothing.
Yeah.
But this Western culture is all about hustle, work, make money, your own fence, your own cars, your own food. Then you end up unhappy in your own island. At the end of the day, the most precious thing is human being. That's how I understand. Do you have a kid?
No. Oh my God.
Are you married?
No.
Are you in a relationship?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you have a kid, how do you raise them?
Oh my gosh. You know,
That's the right question, right?
So actually, I started having an opinion about how to like parent my own kid, how to like foster a home when I started babysitting as a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I would see different homes and I would see how the parent would expect me to like support the kid versus things that the kid can do by themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So like so many things. I'm like sitting up. I'm sorry.
You know ምን ይባላል? ከበሮ ሲያዩት ያምር ሲይዙት ያደናግር ይባላል። ከበሮ, you know ከበሮ. When you look on someone else, it's beautiful. When you on your own, ይጠፋብሻል. So when I talk about your killer, so many things, so many ideas. You know what? From our conversation, I was, I'm truly scared to marry and to have kids because I knew these things. Raising children is not an easy thing.
No, it's not.
It really scares me.
So much credit to parents. To be
Yeah.
fair.
God bless you guys. In whatever way, we are here, we are alive, we are somehow conscious.
Yeah.
እግዚአብሔር ይባርካችሁ. Even my mom, our relationship wasn't good. She's passed away, but I love you so much. The suffering was helpful. My dad, the best person in the world, he showed me how to love God and how to be good human being. Even we lived maybe 3 years, 7 years, but like 10 years or maybe 12 years together. But that was enough for me. መውለድ በራሱ ቀላል ነገር አይደለም። በጣም ትልቅ ነገር። I'm grateful. እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን። እንደዚህ ግን አልነበርኩም ሁሉ ጊዜ ማለት ነው። ግን እንዴት ነው የምታሳድጊው እስቲ? ምክንያቱም ገና በማህፀን ያለ ገና ሲወለድ በ2 ወሩ ከዛ በ3 ዓመቱ ምናምን እያደገ ሲመጣ ሲጎረምስ ደግሞ አልሰማም ምናምን ማለት ሲጀምር ኮሌጅ ሲገባ ወይ ጓደኞቹ ጋር ፓርቲ ይለያያል። How do you do that? How
So again, I'm not a parent, so
Yeah,
respectively,
yes.
I can give an opinion, but
don't call me on this, okay?
But so I do feel like the first thing is whoever you choose to be your spouse, that's where it starts. Prior to having a child, it is who you have a spouse with. So it is about what roles do you think that you can fulfill, right? Just as like man and wife, can you be supportive? Do you guys have the same opinion about even spirituality, about consequences? Do you share the idea of how to create a fostering home? Mind you, it's like, in my opinion, I think that it is so much more of a struggle if there's a difference in even spirituality. Some people can coexist, but I do feel like at some point it kind of like overlaps in a negative way. Whoever you decide to have your spouse with, do you want your child to be that person? Do you want to see the struggles of things that you have never healed in your child? Are you willing to face a mini version of you that will spit back at you your own mistakes? So a lot of it is who you choose as a spouse and what you decide to do with your own healing. Me personally, I do not want to have a child until I feel like obviously I'm financially ready, but also it's just a matter of me healing my own traumas and experiences and things like that. The last thing I want to do is replicate or copy paste my own child, and I'm not ready to fulfill them to the fullest extent. I want to be intentional about raising a family and who I raise that family with. So intentional. There's too many conversations that you need to establish, too many boundaries about how can you safely, comfortably carry the boundaries of yourself and your partner as well. Are you ready to make sacrifices for your family? Because being a parent is a forever decision. It is a life choice.
There's no check out.
People have babies, but the thing is, it's not just about having a baby. Are you ready to be a parent?
Yeah.
Are you ready to raise a child? A
What is the
baby is
difference-
cute.
What is the difference between having a baby and being a parent?
You're reproducing. I'm just being completely honest. You're reproducing, right? You're
Yeah.
having a baby. You get to, it's cute, it's for everybody to carry the baby.
Yeah.
It's cute to, there's a filter around just like having a baby. To be a parent, you have to be brave. You have to have humility.
Yeah.
You have to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
You have to grow. You have to be able to push and prosper for your family. That is a forever mission. Until you die, you are a parent. Anybody can have a baby. Not every person can be a parent. And unfortunately, there are families that have babies and they're not parents.
Most of them.
Yeah.
I think they relate with that. Because I see people, they are producing, like
Children in unfortunate circumstances when they are not
like,
ready.
children's, they don't listen what you say, they listen what you do. That's the scariest part. And let me ask you another good question. How to choose spouse or a partner?
Yeah.
How do you pick your man? Yeah. That's the challenging thing, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
And I feel like, well, obviously it starts with dating, right? I do feel like we are not dating for marriage. I'll just say that. I know that's a very traditional thing to say, but I know a lot of people that date for fun. They date for experience. They date for pleasure. They date for satisfaction. They date for accomplishment. But the thing is, it's like you are just setting yourself up for failure. You have to have the intention of like, why do I want to be with this person? What can this person do for me? How can I fulfill this person? There's that. A lot of it also has to be an overlap of values, an overlap of, it's not even having like similar experiences. It's just a matter of like the interpretation of certain experiences, being able to learn from certain experiences and being able to say, this impacted me in this way, but I know XYZ is better. I know that I need to push for ABC. It is also, again, whoever you decide to be your spouse, again, if you happen to be dating for marriage, it's like, do you want to create another human being that can impact the world like that? Do you see beauty in your spouse, and do you want to give the world, share that beauty within another person? It's also understanding that like the whole having a baby versus being a parent, right? They are totally different things. And you also understand that the reason why you would want to be a parent, the reason why do you want to have a spouse, it's about serving your godly role for each other. As a woman, how can you support your man? As a man, how can you lead your woman? And there are so many roles that, lead into that. And it is at least stepping into this such a secular world and being able to support each other through goals, being able to be each other's cheerleaders. When something that I like to perceive, I guess, is the whole idea of like our relationship is meant to be 50-50. It's not exactly how it's supposed to be in my perspective. What I like to see it as, it's like when your spouse is at 10%, you pick up the 90. When you feel like you're at a 30, your spouse is able to pick up the 70. So it ends up being like a fair playing ground as throughout. Whatever you are not able to do, your spouse is able to do, and vice versa.
What if you are 0% both?
Both? Then it is just a matter of communication. And that's fair, but it's also, it's like, it's not saying why are you at a 0%, but what can you do to self-soothe before you're able to communicate, hey, I don't want to leave you in the dark, but I am feeling like this. Yeah, it can happen. Don't get me wrong. But you have to be able to reconcile, not just leave it be or brush it under the rug. And I feel like that happens a lot in this generation. A lot of, not ignorance, but intentionally pushing things away and not communicating. And I feel like there's a lack of communication. Maybe it's because of like a lack of vulnerability even, or intimacy. Not romantic intimacy, but just genuine connection.
ግራ መጋባትና ጭንቀት ውስጥ ኖት። የልጅነቶ ስቃይ ልቦትን አቁስሏል። የትዳሮ መሻከር ሕይወቶን አጨልሟል። ምክንያቱን በማያውቁት መጥፎ ስሜት ውስጥ ኖት። ብቻዎትን አይደሉም። ልቦትን የሚያሳርፍ አእምሮን ጸጥ የሚያሰኝ ቦታል። አዲስ ሰው የሚያደርጎት ልምምዳል። የእውነት ለመዳን ምርጥ አጋጣሚ ነው። ጫጫታ ከሞላበት ዓለም እንውጣ። ወደ ተፈጥሮ ሰላም ወደ አርባ ምንጭ እንሄድ። በ17ኛው ሪትሪት ላይ እንሳተፍ። ከጥር 23 እስከ 26 በውቢቷ ሰላም በምትሰጠው አርባ ምንጭ ከተማ በ0987 2090 አሁኑን ደውላችሁ ተመስገቡ።
እንደኔ መዳን የሚፈልግ መቀየር የሚፈልግ ራሱን ማግኘት የሚፈልግ ሰው ካለ አንድም ሁለቴ ማሰብ ሳይጠበቅበት መምጣትን ብቻ ወስኖ መምጣት እንዳለበት ነው የምናገረው።
How you bring that? I mean, because most people are not ready to communicate.
Yeah.
To put their emotions, their values, their goals. Even they don't have a goal.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know about values. Maybe everybody has a value, but they are not conscious of it. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And some people unconsciously started this relationship. They have a baby and they are lost. Oh my gosh, I'm with this guy. They want to leave, but God says don't leave, or from their culture and religion point of view, divorce is a sin. So they are confused. What do you recommend for this kind of relationship?
I think more than just dating to marriage, it's dating to glorify God. How can you fulfill each other's missions for God? So it is a matter of like sharing spiritual values as well. It is a matter of understanding each other's faults and holding each other accountable of like, I'm not blaming you for, you know, being XYZ, but also what are you going to do about it? It's, you know, pushing each other to have responsibility and pushing each other to serve each other well.
I mean, like, God said, as I loved you, love each other. But when I come to you and, what is your goal? What is your value? And does that align with me? If it is, I will marry you. Then, isn't it transactional? Because God loved us just unconditionally. Whether you are a poor, rich, hardworking, or lazy, He just accepted you and He loved you. How can we balance these two things?
Associating the concept of like transactional love, transactional interaction, and just the human experience, unfortunately, like objectifies us and it puts us in harm's way more than anything. I think that we as believers, we are meant to follow the mannerisms and the behavior of Christ himself.
Yeah.
And by doing so, it's loving in spite of everything, in spite of difficulties. And when you do find your person, those difficulties, you find love to be easy. You find it like trials and tribulations do not matter, because going through these experiences, even like if you have gone through problems prior and you've successfully gone through it with every single time, it's like a different level of intimacy every single time. You find love further, not to like push your partner, not to make them, you know, impatient or feel like they are at their last, you know, straw, but you need to reinforce your partner despite of all of this. So giving them reassurance and things like that. And vice versa. If you need reassurance, you need to say that. You need to voice what you need so that they can fulfill you, and vice versa. It's all in the sake of the value, the spiritual values that you have to share. You have to be able to encourage each other to get more values even in order to be able to prosper and glorify God.
You are a unique kind of human being. It's amazing to have you on this podcast. You're truly, truly special human being. This podcast is not for them, it's for me. You know what I'm saying? It's for me, it's not for them. You guys, if you are watching, enjoying, that's fine. But this podcast is for me. You know what I'm saying? ምክንያቱም እንደዚህ አይነት ሰው ያለ አይመስለንም እዛ ሀገር ላይ. For the younger generation, for your age, do you have any message?
So many.
Yeah.
I think that, first of all, that there is too much stigma in being like in a middle space from A to B, pretty much. Like from us being from not successful to successful, or from being confused to not confused anymore. So that middle space, pretty much, a lot of us are trying to figure out who we are as people, where we belong in the eyes of God, things like that. Like how can we really, really fulfill ourselves? I think also that at this simultaneously, we are also victims to distraction. I think that we struggle with the most, and we struggle in silence. And I think that, again, we deserve the credit for surviving a lot of different things. Again, it's like we have survived, but at the same time, we also need to pick up some responsibility at the same time. Not every person is the same, but I believe that we can be so much more successful if we bring ourselves to independent education, if we bring ourselves to what it means to be spiritually fulfilled, if we were aware of our placement in society and our placement in God's eyes. And most importantly, we really need to ask ourselves, are we ready to be used by God? Are we receptive? Are we open? Are we vulnerable to him? Or is in our chest, do we have too many distractions and too many things and priorities, expectations and work and things like that? We are busy, but we are not receptive for God.
In the Bible it says, I knock, ደጅ ላይ ቆሜ አንኳኳለሁ. We all have that picture in our home, or we have seen that picture somewhere. But who are we?
We belong to God.
Oh my gosh.
We belong to him and him alone. I mean, it's very easy to fall short.
We think we belong to us.
That part.
Yeah. And I think we are at the end. That's why we're having such kind of conversation. Were you there when the fire was in LA? When the fire started? You're here.
No, I heard I had a couple more days in the States before I came here. Yeah. Very unfortunate. It's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
I wish that, the funding wasn't cut. I wish that, individuals that are suffering with this situation, they can, feel safe, and, they don't have to lose their homes, their livelihood.
Yeah.
It is so unfortunate. And I feel like, there are too many disasters in the world right now, to be fair. And it is unfortunate. There are too many people that are suffering, not even just from the LA fires, everywhere, but specifically for those families impacted. It is so unfortunate.
So unfortunate. I don't know. There's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The technology is growing every single day exponentially. And still human beings are starved. Imagine this bigger country. They have like drones, this mega fighting airplanes, nuclear bomb. Still, they are failed to stop the fire. What's wrong with this world? What's wrong with America? What's wrong? I mean, what I'm saying? We are lost, and it should be a conversation on CNN, but not. It should be conversation on BBC. They are full of lies. Sorry to say this. And every mainstream media and mainstream culture leading us to the devil. That's how I feel. But
yeah,
I mean, we need to wake up. We need to raise our collective consciousness. I think this is a solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my last question. What is the impact you want to create in this world?
So many.
Yeah.
I feel like there are so many stigmas that I really want demolished. Wow. So many. I want families to have healthy relationships with each other, and the roles are honored. I want, mental health to not be stigmatized. I want people to have more access and resources to be able to, help themselves as needed. I want people to seek education and media literacy to better themselves, rather than just doom scrolling. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Doom scroll. Such a good word here. Wow.
I want us to be better people by, improving ourselves and holding each other accountable. I want families to be educated, and I want, children to have access to resources so where they can learn and they can prosper and they can be supported by their parents in a loving and a safe home, in an environment in which the parents are actively prospering. By having parents be, knowledgeable of these things, they produce successful children every single time. I want Ethiopia to be developed in a way where, not everything is poorly displaced. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Arbenmensch is beautiful, right? Even the parks here, like Unity Park or whatever, right? Friendship Park, absolutely beautiful, right? Obviously, there's too much detail that comes into like even picking up every individual leaf off the ground. So it's like there is not like a misplaced twig. It almost looks like unreal. Again, like across the street, like what are the streets we're struggling and things like that. I understand that a lot has come into construction. I know we are bettering ourselves again. I just don't want there to be like a poor displacement. I want everyone to have fair and equal opportunity. Families that are struggling with their own sins, and any individual that's struggling with their own sin, for them to rectify themselves, for them to educate themselves, for them to seek God and glorify Him and really reap the benefits and be able to prosper in the blessings that God has set for us. It is just a matter of being receptive for it. There is too much change and too much development that needs to be done as humanity, period. It's not just in Ethiopia. It's not just in the States. Everywhere we need to change. Everywhere we need to put a step forward and build each other up and, have that village, but at the same time be able to, find a balance of not putting other people below us, but pushing everybody together. And I feel like in a culture like America where it's individualistic, that can fall short in a culture like Ethiopia where, we have this whole, it takes a village, but oftentimes we are sacrificing our skin and blood, for our families, and we end up suffering as well. I want there to be a healthy balance where people can, strive for themselves, strive for their community in a way that doesn't hurt anybody, and they are able to benefit and they're able to be educated, where everybody becomes fostered to become better people, especially the kids. Our kids need help. Our kids need to be supported. Our parents need to be better. And that's not a bad thing. It's just we need to be better people, period. That's it.
What is you made me speechless. You're saying it in a perfect way. How is your relationship with your phone?
My phone?
Yeah. I wish your mom or someone that who really knows you were here. Wanna see your face, their face when you're talking. Be honest.
Better. It has gotten better, to be fair. I am not going to be like, you shouldn't ever have your phone. I can't believe you have like 3 hours of screen time. You know what I mean? Like, again, you are going to have your phone. And in this generation, in modern day, it is acclimated in everything. I use my phone for, again, I cannot drive without a GPS. I'm very directionally challenged, to be fair. So
good excuse, yeah. But I text my boyfriend and we chat, we FaceTime, and I check my favorite.
Well, it's not just that. It's for leisure as well. I'm not going to lie, right? But also it's like a habit that we do need to have that I am still practicing myself is, finding leisure outside of electronics, right? So whether that is, I don't know, self-care, whether that is doing something that can benefit you. Again, this whole doom scrolling thing, we are overexposed to high frequency stimulation, and that's how we get used to it, and our brains get locked in a way that it's not supposed to be locked in. So we can just forget that time exists. And again, we are able to consume short media in longer periods of time, like TikTok, obviously. And at least for the States, the whole thing about it getting banned. And I know.
Are you happy about it?
Well, I know that it's going to it's good for me, period. So,
yeah.
I'm seeking the positive in that situation. I do like it for like recipes and stuff, to be fair. But I do like it for leisure.
YouTube. Glad somehow me and my team, we switched our focus from TikTok to YouTube. So we build my personal brand did it on TikTok. So we funneled the audience to the YouTube because we saw using TikTok, you don't bring such a huge impact.
No.
But YouTube, like for 2 hours, having this conversation will impact someone. I swear to God. So I decided it was conscious. It was a conscious decision, but glad whether TikTok is closed or not, it's not gonna impact me.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a bad news for so many businesses. Maybe 3 million businesses in US, and the major paying brands are on US. It's not a bad thing. And the reason really pissed me off. If the reason was, our people, they are getting distracted, they are wasting the time, no, we want to own it.
Yeah.
Don't spoil. China, China, don't spoil. Let us spoil our people. You know what I'm saying? That really pisses me off. But that's very, very good. Or they're gonna ban it, or they're not gonna ban it.
From my understanding, that essentially it's on the 19th. So it's, at least for the States, what's gonna end up happening is it's gonna stop updating, and then it's gonna just stop functioning altogether, like the inability to like access the app and things like that. It's gonna be like a slow burn, pretty much, and then it'll just straight up stop working.
IG, Facebook, YouTube, they are like happy, I have heard some conspiracy theorists, they are the ones who are pushing the Senate and the US government to ban TikTok, because TikTok is leading them legitimately. Because TikTok is not a social media alone. It's becoming Amazon. People are live shopping.
Oh, yeah. The TikTok.
Yeah, like it's crushing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, this American tech company CEO, they're pushing. Because it's a business, but it is good. I mean,
I don't know. I just feel like if I were to put in my 2 cents, like the ban for TikTok happened like so soon. I think it was like, it initially started like, I want to say like a year ago, I think, something like that, or like the discussion of it and the fact that it's actually being followed through. I just feel like as a country, there are different things that we should be pushing for banning, rather than a social media app. You can talk about privacy and ownership and data and whatnot, but like there are things that are directly harming us. You know what I mean? Personally, one thing I'm very adamant on is gun control. Right. And
you see, that was I was about to
our
say.
children are dying.
Jesus.
Our children are literally dying for something completely preventable.
Yeah.
Like we are sacrificing our children for what? The right to like carry a gun? I just feel like, and even it's like the accessibility, like it's the States that has a problem with this versus any other country that has their guns regulated. There are no school shootings, or like it's minimal to none, like the percentages. And it's just like,
do you have a gun?
Huh?
Do you have a gun?
I would never touch a gun in my life. In Aruba, Mitch, you know how
park
the park was. That's the first time that I saw a gun.
Near to gun?
And I would never touch it. I was like holding myself together because Mickey was like, he was like showing us the guide, like how to go through, and he had the gun in the car.
Yeah.
I was shaking. I would never go to a shooting range. You could give me a BB gun, I wouldn't care. I am just like, I am so happy that God gave me the fear of him and guns, period.
I read in a book, 1,000 Splendid Suns. Was a very beautiful book. In that book, there was a character. She saw the gun end. She thought, why this guy owned something that kills people in his home?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I think it is intentionally. They did this in America.
I don't know. Like there is an argument about like, self-defense and things like that. But I feel like there are different ways that we can defend ourselves that's not like a rifle or anything like that. I'm genuinely like petrified. Like in that car, I was like, this is the first time I've been physically with a gun, to be fair. And what I'm thinking of is like, is a safety on or off? Like why? I need more education on this about why.
Do you want to write a book, start a content, or?
I've thought about it before, like in a very light manner. Like what I have done in the past is I have held parent conferences of essentially, one of them was essentially like shining a light on modern parenting, where it was a discussion on what it means to parent as like an Ethiopian older generation, what it means when you bring your experiences and your traumas and bring it into your household, and why we can't really point fingers at our children all the time. And sometimes we need to hold a mirror to ourselves, and it has to be reflective. We have to admit what we have done, who we are, the things that we've experienced, where our identity lies in, and how can we, coexist with, American values and American culture versus, wanting to foster Ethiopian values and things like that. So I have done that before. I am actually building towards corporal punishment actually in February, where I'm deep diving on, again, why corporal punishment is so common in Ethiopian culture. Again, it's just carried out as, why are we surviving this? But I do, regardless of where I am and who I speak to, whether it's in a mic or whether it's a room of 10 parents, what I do want to do is be heard and have it settle in the hearts of any individual, of letting them, whether they agree or disagree with me, I want to initiate some reaction. You know what I mean? Whether you can say, oh, I do agree with this, or I really think that I need to, do better as a parent, or like, I actually don't agree with this, or whatever. You have a reaction, and that's fine. It's something to think about. I want this generation to think. My younger generation and my older generation, I want us to intentionally think. And I feel like we are losing the skill of thinking, of critical thinking even. And it is a skill that we need to be adamant on. It needs to be sharpened. We can't just, say we've done critical thinking once and then just toss it and move on. It's something that is generational wealth even. If you know how to critically think, and if you teach your children how to do so, if you present it, let them mirror you, let them copy you. Be the example that you want to see the world become. Add on to the world.
The podcast is not gonna end yet.
6 more hours.
Yeah, 6 more hours. You're my favorite guest. You are. I swear to God. I wish this were in Amharic and በጥፊ ትለን ነበረ.
I wish I could speak in Amharic.
Yes.
Again, it's like,
That's
unfortunately.
That's
I know.
the challenge.
I know. I want to learn so bad. Again, it's like, I know I'm articulate in English and I do want to be more accessible to people. Again, it's like, I am learning, to set the record straight. I am actively trying to learn. Again, what does mess me up is like the punctuation and like feminine.
So, for example,
yeah.
you came in Ethiopia and you speaking in English. No, you don't want to learn. If you truly want to learn, እያሰባበርሽን ቢሆን ታወሪያለሽ ይሳቁብሽ። ግን የኃይሌ ገብረስላሴ ቤተሰብ ነሽ አይደለ? ምንድነው ከሱ የተማርሽው ትልቁ ነገር?
That I didn't understand.
Oh yeah.
I'll admit that.
Haile Gebrselassie is your family, right?
Yeah.
What was the greatest thing you have learned from him?
So essentially,
do you know him like when you were little?
Yes. Yeah.
You met him in person, like in the Z?
I don't actually. So the story is, it's like how I'm pretty sure that he knew when I was born. I'm assuming, I'm hoping.
Yeah, he knows.
But what I do like is his strive of like marketing that he's done and accessibility that he's done. He has had an immensely large impact in the not even the culture, but the marketing and just how his businesses has flourished. He has so many like assets and dividends, you know what I mean? Like, it is so impressive how he's pushed, because here's the thing, you can be like a one-hit wonder, you know what I mean? You're known for one thing, and then it's like you die on that legacy and that's it. Again, he is pushing and he's going up, and he's continuously going up, and that's something that I can really, really applaud for that perseverance, you know what I mean? That business mindset of, having and pushing and trying and doing different things. And mind you, he's being successful in every single asset. You know what I mean?
Still moving.
There is still moving. There hasn't really been a depletion, to be fair. Like, it's all so many assets. And the fact that he made generational wealth, like, who can say that, to be fair?
Generational wealth.
Generational.
Yeah.
And it's,
but still, he works like he has nothing.
And even like for his family as well, he puts people to work. You know what I mean? He doesn't spoil anybody. It's like he puts people to work, and it's not like, tossing it as if it doesn't matter or by any means, but like he wants people to earn. And like, what an amazing skill that is, that we are losing that in this generation. Like, we're not working or earning or doing anything. Like, we're losing that touch. And I really appreciate that, at least here, he's doing that.
You saw his daughters, right? You met them.
Oh, yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Like, what is the lesson you took from them?
For all of them,
Yeah.
right? Including the son as well. They are very intentional with higher education and with work and making connections, things of that nature. Because, again, you can have generational wealth and just be lazy. You can just be comfortable. But the fact that they have so much intention about doing the right thing and working for themselves and learning about the fields that they're in. And yeah, sure, they have connections, sure, but a lot of it, they're doing it out of their own, like their own sacrifice, their own flesh. They're doing it.
Uncommon. Once it comes, fame it comes, to work on your child. I met them, I know them, their mentality. It is different. It is uncommon. It is like, is that a blessing or is that something you intentionally created that? And I think he did that. There is no excuse for some rich guy and me to excuse to be successful and to mess up my kids. Haile did it. His children, they choose to live here.
Yeah.
Because of him. Mela told me, why are you here in this third world? You know what she said? I will die for this country. And I asked her why. It's my dad. He loves this country.
She's so family oriented. Even Alam, like, I have so much respect for her. Like, she's so kind-hearted. She is, again, she's like also like, she has such strive to her. You know what I mean? She's so driven as well. She's like so independent in like so many different ways. Like, that family is like very inspirational to me, to be fair. Like, they haven't lost the touch of what it means to be family oriented, despite having the privilege of a lot of opportunity, a lot of money, a lot of distractions. You know what I mean? That's super important to like raise up your kids to, have their priorities set and not to be distracted, nor for them to be cushy and for them to be spoiled. You know what I mean? Like, again, that can be absolutely learned in every single family. It's not just because, they have the time or they have the money. They are human beings, period. Just like how anybody here is a human being, period. Yeah.
And he impacted me.
Yeah.
So he's not lost. I mean, he impacted me.
Yeah.
And he took that inspiration from someone.
Yeah.
Who? Bakkala Molla. There was a very successful person, Bakkala Molla. I learned from him. Trust me, I learned from Haile, and I'm going to build a big businesses with the help of God. Someone is going to see me and is going to be inspired and build another good business. The country will change eventually. That's it. And that's great. And you are great in your own way as well.
I love his values, to be fair. You know what I mean? Like, he's attention to detail. Like, he is such a people person. When I came to even Addis, I was in the Addis location, right?
Yeah, Haile Grant.
Yeah. And I was having breakfast. He had heard that I was there, and he had came just to surprise, just to visit. I hadn't seen him in like forever, and he was like, when was the last time that you've been in Ethiopia? I was like, you're not gonna like the number. But it's been like, I don't like 13 years, something like that. And he because he was like, it's been for, you haven't seen anything, man. You have to go to Abram and whatever. Yeah, he's the reason why I had gone. Yeah, but yeah.
You see, he loves the country.
Yeah,
Jesus,
his country, his people. Like, I have so much like respect that he still has like. He's a very like humble person. Yeah. At the end of the day, like, he has not lost like a lick of his personality. You know what I mean?
Which is I want.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, I was like entering to Haile Resort. He said, Manyazewal, and he gave me this great respect, and he gave me this. Oh my gosh! I was like, he said, I'm going out for the flight. We can have a grab coffee. This guy, like, my heart was pumping.
I know, like he's really, truly impactful. Like I have, like, I can't even say a breath of something like, or criticism to say, because it's like he has done everything that could be done, especially with his position, his power, financials, everything. Like it's a very honorable thing, everything that he does with his own family, with the people that work with him, business partners, expectations, everything. It's like, it's so very honorable.
God bless him and his family.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You too.
Afterthought.
Is there anything you want to say? Finally, I wish this podcast, I mean, ቢቀጥል በጣም ደስ ይለኛል, because you're so amazing. Even after the podcast, ጊዜ ኖሮሽ ባወራሽ, even we grab a coffee, like you have so many insights, which I love. So በበቃኝ ተሸንፌያለሁ ዛሬ guys. በበቃኝ ያሸነፈችኝ. Shout out to you. Is there anything you want to say?
That's a really good question. I would say that at least for any participating viewers, whatever shook your core for whatever degree, whether it's like, oh, that's interesting, or oh, I need to change, I hope that whatever you did happen to hear, it settles in your heart in a way that you can actually do something about it. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to be educated and aware of their own faults and be able to push forward to success. And I'm very honored to be here, I guess. And I am looking forward to the positive development of Ethiopia as a whole and America as well. I can't count that out, but I do have a hope at the end of the day. As much as we talked about the difficulties that you know, both cultures have, I do have a hope that because we are modern, because we have opportunities, because, you know, we can also be enlightened as well. It is not too late to be enlightened and to be able to push forward for a benefit for ourselves and for our own culture. So, yeah.
Where can people find you? Do you have an Instagram account, YouTube, Google, phone, Telegram? Is there any?
Venmo.
Yeah. Might leave, like, if there is someone who resonated with your ideas, you know, oh, I want to talk to her. I know. So is there any phone number or any social media site you want to share publicly, or you want to hold it?
I would say that at least for my media presence, it has been, I don't want to say fruitful, but more of like not as active. Like, for example, media seminars that I had presented, they were like 2 years ago, to be fair. And I do feel like I am more educated and more confident in the things that I do say. And I had worked with Abasha Kids Club. That it's a location in Virginia where it is, the whole purpose of that community is to be able to, like, kids can have leisure time or whatever, but it's also for to access parents and children and for tutoring. So it's basically a place where you can find accessibility in the DMV. So I would say I am active. I am present on there. That is where I've held my parent conferences, and where the following one will come up in February, hopefully.
Abasha Kids Parenting.
Abasha Kids Club.
Okay. Abasha Kids
on
Club.
YouTube. Yeah. As terms of, I haven't yet made a personal social media. It's like in this degree.
Okay. We're going to share her email address, new address.
Okay.
Open new Gmail or whatever address.
Yeah.
Or Telegram group or whatever links she create. We're going to put it in the description and on the comment section as well. So who knows?
Yeah.
God is calling out for you to help out for his kids. Who knows?
I am looking forward to be impactful. I've done like mentoring even to that degree, being able to work with families like one-on-one.
Trust me, you will help so many souls. Trust me. One soul, Jesus said,
is enough.
One soul is enough. በአንድ ሰው መዳን በመላእክት ዘንድ ደስታ ይሆናል ለጌታችን። So one person, if ከሱሳይደድ ቢወጣ one person እዛ ሀገር ያለ ተው እዚህ ሀገር ያለው እኛም አለንለት ያው ሰሙንም አልሰሙንም እኛም አለንላቸው፣ ግን እዛ ሀገር ያለች አንዲት ሴት ሩት እንዲህ ብላሽ if she see the lights in you, the light of our Father in you, that's enough. And trust me, And so by now, you had this impact in me. I
Thank you.
swear to God, I mean it. You impacted me in so many ways. So I'm grateful for you that we met up and we did this podcast.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to enjoy it again. I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to learn from it, especially the thing you talk about parenting, the thing you talk about spirituality, God, the thing you talk about media literacy. I know I'm going to have a big project on this issue because you inspired me. Because people, I do have, I don't trust everything I see. The books, even I don't trust. I only trust God. And before I open the book, the media, I ask God to guide me. That's the only sort that I trust. Then people, why lemon sitfaligi ትልቅ ሰባኪ አትሆኝም. I don't trust you. I only trust God. So I am building that relationship through try and error. Oh, this is good. This is, that's inner connection. So I want to have a big project on that. These people, they have to know. Because I have a media. We care about our audience to not misguide them. And it's not easy. It's very difficult because we are a kid. We are young. And most people in YouTube, most people follow us, trust us.
Yeah.
So we are asking God to help us. That's why we start our every show with prayer and asking God for his guidance.
Yeah.
And this thing inspired me, and I will teach everyone how I can educate them about the media. I myself have to learn. And I have to educate them in videos, in projects, with my team. We have to tell them who they have to follow. And that's, you inspired me a lot. And thank you so much. ክብራትና ክብራን ፕሮግራማችን ይህን ይመስል ነበር። ከታች ያስቀመጥነውን የሷን የቴሌግራም ኦር የዋትስአፕ ግሩፕ ሊሆን ይችላል ወይ ኢሜሏን ገብታችሁ ቼክ አድርጎና አመስግኗት። የምትጠይቁትም ጥያቄ ካለ ጠይቋት። እንግዲህ ጊዜ ሲኖራት ትመልሳለች። እግዚአብሔር ይስጥልን። ቴንክ ዩ ሶ ማች